Hello, welcome to Cerulean Arts. And today we are speaking with James Rapone and Kathleen Studebaker in conjunction with the exhibition Piece by Piece, which features constructed paintings, collages, and sculptures. The exhibition also features paintings by Charles Kalick, but Charles can't be with us today. So welcome, Kathleen and Jim.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for having us.
And Jim does the collages and Kathleen, you do the sculptures. So let me just spotlight Tina's video. So Jim, we're looking at one of your
Yes.
right now.
Um,
So can you tell us a little bit like where you're coming from with your work and how you make it?
at the opening, I was talking to someone, it might even have been Kathleen. So I was mentioning the abstract expressionist approach to painting is a very strong impulse in myself, in which although I'm not painting per se, I am starting with a blank canvas as I see it. And I'm just starting to make marks by choosing pieces of paper. I never know, I have no intention in mind whatsoever except to create something interesting to look at. I love lines, I love structures, I love forms. I'm very much into space and depth right now. I feel like I'm looking more deeply every day, which is surprising me. So there's so much of it is just a surprise to me because it really is the practice of looking and making selections.
So I'm interested in order and randomness, I guess, with your work and also yours, Kathleen. So Jim, like with your papers, do you have them like categorized?
No.
What you're looking for, or is it like a pile of
It's a big pile of mess. The last time I tried to give it some order, I separated some larger pieces, some mid-sized pieces, and some very small pieces. That actually helped a little bit. I try to maintain that a little bit.
because your work does look very orderly. So at some point, you must slow down once an image starts to coalesce.
I do slow down quite a bit. In fact, it literally starts with one piece that appeals to my eye, and then finding a second piece which somehow looks good next to the first piece. I mean, it's as simple as that. And it's almost like building. And one of the things I like about Kathleen's sculptures is how they're constructed. I love constructing these pieces. And sometimes I could be looking at a piece for days and just moving pieces of paper around without putting anything down until I find the right piece, the right element. So I try not to force it.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I try not to force it. I try to, as artists, you get like a gut feeling that, okay, that's it, that's good. And then go with it.
Yeah, Kathleen, what are your thoughts on the difference, the order and randomness part? I mean, are your sculptures like very pre-planned, or how do you go about them?
Well, it's sort of a mixture. I definitely start off with a general idea of what I'm going for, but I do not have like a super specific plan about where I want to go. But of course, they often end up looking like pretty different from what I thought they were going to. But there are some rules. I think that's one thing that's different about my work from Jim's work. But Jim, I love what you said about your work being a surprise to you. I think that's such a nice way of putting it, because that happens to me too. It doesn't always happen, but occasionally. But like the main rules that I have to do with color. So color has always been a really important part of my work. It's just a thing that I care about a lot, in my life in like a lot of different ways. So with these pieces, the color all comes from the metal, right? I'm using the natural color of the different types of metal, like as my palette. And so I have rules within each piece about like the order that the metals have to go in. So they either start with copper around the outside or in the middle, and then cycle through or transition through, bronze and then yellow brass, and then aluminum and then steel. So like the colors have to be in that order, just because it really bothers me when colors are out of order. And I realize that that's kind of blasphemous to suggest that there could be like a correct order of colors. And I don't mean to suggest that this is universally true.
Yeah.
But it's just for me, like, I want them to be like in the electromagnetic spectrum gradient. I just feel like that I just need it to be that way. And it would be almost impossible for me to make something that didn't follow that rule. So I usually start with the rings in each piece. And so that means that, there's only certain rings can go together because of that order that they have to go in, right? But once I have the rings, that dictates certain things about what the piece is going to look like. Sort of tells me where to go.
So Kathleen, are you fabricating all the elements, or are you using anything that's pre-made?
No, I mean, I fabricate all of the pieces by hand. The rings are slices off of pipes. So somebody else made the pipe. A machine made the pipe, right?
Right.
But that would be the closest thing to like a found object that's in there. So
that really shocked me about your pieces, Kathleen, was that you actually fabricate these. I thought for sure that these were all found or bought objects, and that maybe you manipulated them a little bit, but I'm surprised that they're also hand formed, handmade.
I've had a lot of practice making little metal bits of stuff. I had a job fabricating trophies for a while.
It's great.
Which might sound odd, but
no, it sounds like it would fit into it perfectly.
Yeah, it was a great job for me, and I learned a whole lot from it, especially about fabricating metal by hand in various forms.
Yeah. When did you start this series with that look like, what did you call them? Like astro globes or
astro objects? I call them
astro objects. When did
really,
you start working in that?
I think the very first one that I made about a year ago. So all 6 of the pieces that are in this show were made this year in 2023. But I did make 1 or 2 at the end of 2022. Yeah. But I've been working with gears for a long time. They just used to be bigger and not so central, to the piece.
Yeah.
So I'm still kind of figuring these out in a lot of ways. I'm still pushing the limits of like
that's the best part. I mean,
yes.
People say, what do your things mean? I have no idea what they mean. Hopefully they're just visually interesting, and I hope there's something else underneath all of that, which is more about just living. And I like to think whatever you're experiencing as an individual when you're making something is somehow coming through in your aesthetic choices.
So Jim, in your statement, you mentioned drawing the viewer in and revealing something of the magic of human experience.
I wrote that.
was the transcription of your talk during Bill Scott's
yes. Yeah.
So
that's what I'm trying too hard to explain. Things like that. But yes, I think it's just another point about what I was saying just now, that whatever one's experience is at the moment as you're making these aesthetic choices, I really believe the best art somehow communicates that in some formal way, not in some obvious way, but in some mysterious way. I think about the pieces sometimes as if they're musical notes. I listen to a lot of music, and I like somehow I look at the elements in the collage sometimes as musical notes, and that they have to have a specific purpose. They can't just be totally random. They have to actually say something and speak something the way music does.
So do
Yeah,
you?
there's definitely a rhythm to them. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying there is a rhythm to the pieces. I like that comparison to music. That makes a lot of sense.
A lot of my titles refer to music that I'm listening to at the moment.
So you do listen, do you feel like what you're listening to affects what you're making?
I don't know if it always affects what I'm making, but it seems somehow to be a part. Sometimes I just take a line from a poem because that week I might be reading a certain poet, and I'll find a line that appeals to me, and I'll have made a piece and I'll remember that line, and the line might become the title. Kathleen actually surprised me by recognizing a line from T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland that I gave one of my pieces.
Which one is that?
That's a heap of broken images. That's from The Wasteland. And I was shocked that she picked up on that.
I just happen to know that poem.
Yeah, it's great though. I was delighted, I thought it was great. And there's one small piece of mine that I like. It's called Fratres by Arvo Part. And he's a Estonian composer, does kinds of minimalist music. And it's one of my favorite pieces in the show. It's just a little one. It's very modest, but
17. Yeah, we're heading over to it.
that's it right there, right next to Kathleen's sculpture. There's something about that piece. I don't know what it is. It sort of just happened. It's small. And I was listening to a lot of Arvo Part music that week, which is very contemplative, almost liturgical music.
Have you ever done an experiment, like listen to something that you wouldn't normally listen to and see what happens?
No, I never have. I don't think I have. I listen to a really broad range of music, but I've never thought about it consciously like that. But that's a good idea. Sounds like a good experiment. Actually, the black and white piece that I did in this show, that was kind of like just a little game I was playing with myself, because sometimes you just don't know where to begin. And I just started sorting out the black and white pieces I had to see what I could do. And so I made this little black and white image. That was like a little test for myself.
Jim, I think it's interesting what you say about how you don't know what your work means, and just
Yeah.
letting people like read into it. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of artists experience this, like I spent years and years trying so hard to have some sort of deeper, societal message or something like behind my work. And I feel like that's actually a limiting thing. Like I was really encouraged to do that in school, and it's probably
Yeah.
a healthy thing to do also. You learn from it.
Yeah.
But at this point, I feel like my work, what it means is more. I mean, and this is so selfish, but that's what it is to be an artist. I think it's just about me. Like it's
Yeah.
just about what I like and what I want
Yeah.
to look at, and
Yeah.
the kind of things that I find interesting and beautiful and inspirational. And so those
I
are the
agree.
things that
I
I
agree.
want to put into the world, and
And
hopefully
yet I
other
want to
people.
disappear in it also.
Right.
At the same time, I kind of don't want to make myself too obvious. If it is about me, it's because, or you, I hope it's about the fact that we're just human beings living and experiencing.
Yes, totally.
So maybe if there's an identity, it's the human identity or something like that.
Yeah, and if you can get some of that experience into the work and have other people pick up on it, that
Yeah.
it's like a huge success.
Well, I think that's where form comes in, because I think if you can pin down something, and I don't say there's a way to pin down form, but if you allow form to sort of organically grow and happen, these forms are being born in a way, and they're communicating something. Um, I'm very preoccupied with formal aspects.
So what do you make of the formal aspects of Charles' painting?
I really appreciate these. I mean, they make me think of a few other artists. They make me think of Sean Scully. They make me think of Louise Nevelson. I like the surfaces.
Mhm.
I like the object quality of them. You know, the idea of them as objects. They're a nice contrast to Kathleen's actual objects, freestanding objects, and my collages, and that they kind of uh, hover between the two, I think. Um,
I can read a bit of his
yeah,
statement.
sure, that would be great.
So he says, my work is strongly geometric and relies on the observation of nature and architecture as part of its process. The relationship of color, planes, and texture represent my vision. And this body of work is quite different from my last show, which was bright, colorful, and playful at times. Most of the paintings in this show were created during the dark days of COVID, when the outlook was pretty grim.
Mm.
As you can see from these works, they're mostly somber in tone. As COVID lessened, my palette began to slowly change with the introduction of some brighter colors.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, they're definitely have a sculptural quality. I mean, they're
Yeah.
paintings, but he's adding components and then carving into them and then painting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're
Yeah.
so much more sculptural than I thought they were going to be when I just had seen images on Instagram
Yeah.
of them. You know, in person, they have a much more physical presence than I had realized. The color and the texture, it's just very formal, and they're very satisfying, you know.
Mhm.
I've always liked that idea of I forget how you put it, Kathleen, just now. Something about I mean, earlier I was saying the objectness of them.
Presence.
Yeah, the presence and just that tactile quality that I lost my train of thought, but
Well, it's not an image of something. It
yeah.
is something.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it has, references,
Yeah.
affinities, but
Yeah, absolutely.
it's not a picture of it's the thing itself. So I'm interested to know your thoughts on seeing your work in conjunction with other artists, since you three didn't know each other before the show, yes?
It's true. Well, Jim and I met at a different show right before, but
yeah, you introduced us, Michael.
Right.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think it was the group show that Bill Purthis did, maybe.
Yes,
yeah, it was the juried show.
Mm-hmm.
But we chatted briefly. I liked Kathleen right away, and when I saw her work, I kind of fell in love with it. I really did. I really liked it a lot.
Because the theme of the show is piece by piece, so it's work that's constructed. So
yeah,
it's three forms of construction.
Yeah, I thought it was a great theme, and I think the show looks terrific. I really liked it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I think the work all references each other. You know, like it works together really well, I think. And I just think, you know, you've found three artists who do, at least on the surface, you could say something very similar, right? You take little bits of stuff and like put them together into a new thing, but you end up with stuff that things that are so different from each other. And I also just appreciate Jim's work is the most representational, even though it's still not, you know, it's still like creating a totally new thing. And then my work are actual objects, but they're kind of abstract anyway, because they're not like actual, you know, they don't actually do anything. And Charles's work is like the most abstract, but they're actual objects too. I just think it's a really interesting juxtaposition
Yeah.
with three artists.
So Kathleen, your work does have a feeling of like an instrument for astronomical study that Galileo or someone used. You know, it has that quality to it.
I mean, that is exactly what I'm going for. Like exactly.
You know, you almost expect it to move like one of those. Have you ever thought of incorporating motion into your pictures?
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. And well, okay, so as far as the sculptures that I have in there right now, like it would be impossible, like in the actual physical world, for them to move to any significant extent. Like if you really start to look at where the different axles and things are, like it just,
right,
there's like nowhere it could go. Like it just wouldn't. So if I did want to incorporate motion,
they'd probably have to be a lot bigger, right?
they would have to be very different in form in a lot of ways. It would be very limiting. But I also think, I really think that it would take away from the mystery of it. You know, like the ambiguity of its purpose seems to me to be like one of the most enjoyable things about it. If it moved around and also but didn't actually like do anything to study the stars, because I don't think I could make a sculpture that would actually study the stars in any new way. Anyway, I think I like that they don't actually move. I think I like the mysterious quality that has. Well, it's always evolving, you know. I mean,
Yes,
it's definitely
it is.
on my mind. I think the motion thing is on my mind more than anything else. Like,
Oh, is that right?
as far as what I might or might not do, this is like
Yeah.
a question I ask myself constantly.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, guys. Did you have any last thoughts on the show?
Just that it turned out really great. I love the way you guys laid it out.
Yeah.
I love how balanced it is, like the patterning of it. You know, it just feels like a work of art unto itself, the way that you matched everything up. And I just appreciate the organization of it. It just seems right to me. So thank you so much for including me and us in this.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, the work is beautiful and it came together, you know, very well. So we're really happy with how
I agree with Kathleen. I thought that you guys did a beautiful job of hanging it. I think it's a strong show. And the first time I've shown a body of work in a very, very long time. So I was very happy.
When the show is up through October 22nd. So we hope people can come down and check it out.
I'm still sending people. I hope some people show up.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks again.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.